Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Edgecom Energy's weekly Friday peak forecast. I'm your host, as always, Chris Brady, coming back at you again to talk a little bit about what's going on the grid this past week, what we're looking at next week, and this week we'll even discuss the week after because it's relatively consistent. But before we get into that, I do want to mention a couple of things. First off, I'd like to remind you of our newsletter, which you can find at edgecom.ai/newsletter. It is a monthly newsletter that goes over all the updates that you get on this weekly show and much more information regarding the government, energy management, industry-specific news that you may want to or need to be aware of. And again, you can sign up for that just by sending your email over at edgecom.ai/newsletter. Or if it's easier, you can just scan that QR code right up there and it'll take you right to it. Now, speaking of newsletter, if you're signed up for our newsletter, you would have heard about the NRCan funding for the industrial facility track, which is essentially a funding opportunity from the government that covers up to 50% of costs for relevant energy management system installations, which Edgecom provides, by the way, and also large capital expenditures, as long as you can prove that they'll lead to a certain amount of reduction. So if you want to learn more about that, again, customers signed up for the newsletter, which is free. We just need your email. Get all that information right away. But if you'd like to learn more, you can scan that QR code right there. Or again, go to edgecom.ai/industrial/track and learn everything you need. Now, getting into the news. Peaks this week. Again, we saw yet another heat wave like we saw in June. So there was activity. The latter half of this week especially has been very aggressive. With all that being said, not revealing too much details, but today is a good day to take a look at the ISO and see if it's worth your time to dig further. But we did call a couple curtailment events this week, and they are staying in the top 5. So the heat wave, it is one of the last we're expecting of the season. So with that being said, guys, going into next week, going into the following week, at this current time, we're not projecting any significant activity, and this could very well be the quiet downtime of the season, barring another extreme weather event such as a heat wave, etc., in which case we'll be back at you with more aggressive updates. Now, with that being said, as we're kind of winding down from this peak season and August becomes September and September becomes October, it's time to pay attention to the capacity auction for demand response, which, if you're curtailing for the ICI program and you don't know anything about the demand response program, you can go directly to edgecom.ai and book a meeting to learn more, or scan the QR code, which will pop up here momentarily, and you can book a meeting directly. Now, your quick 5-second rundown of the demand response program is it's curtailing like you do for the global adjustment cost, but instead it's a revenue generating stream, and you have to curtail a lot less on average than you do for the ICI program. Now, with that being said, again, keep your eyes peeled on the ISO website for the rest of this week, but going into next week, going into the week after, try to enjoy the last bit of summer we have, and hopefully nothing more crazy happens. But that's all for me today. Again, you can request a demo scanning the QR code right here. If you want to learn more about demand response specifically, it's edgecom.ai/demand-response, and you'll get all the information you need. And again, we're always happy to help you. It's been a pleasure to be your host, and I will see you guys next week.